to order. Committee, a couple of items here before we get started. First of all, our page this year is Ella. She is from Nampa. She is sponsored by the chairman. And I talked with Ella before the committee this morning and asked if she wanted to tell us a little bit about herself, and she said she would prefer not to. So the chair will honor that. But you want to get to know Ella. She's a bright girl, and she's going to do very well for us this year as a page. So Ella, welcome to House State Affairs. Secretary this year is Liesa Richardson, and get to know Liesa as well. She doesn't just work for the chairman, she works for the committee. So if there's things that you need or questions you have, Liesa will be a great resource. I do have rules in my committee, and so for those of you that are new, I'm going to go over what the rules of the committee are. First of all, we do remote testimony in this committee. I think it's important that the citizens from around the state have the ability to weigh in on matters that are important to them. And oftentimes folks that live in North Idaho or Eastern Idaho don't have the ability to drive over to testify. So we will provide the opportunity for remote testimony. Any agency bill that is presented must be presented by a member of this committee. So for you new folks, what we have found is agencies used to find an unsuspecting freshman legislator to carry their bill who knew nothing about the agency and who knew nothing about the subject matter. And we have found that it's far more effective if they have to pick someone on the committee that at least understands the issues. So if an agency comes and talks to you about a bill, you're welcome to sponsor it if you want to, but don't feel any pressure that you have to. You can say no. So anyways, just know that. RSs. This is unique in this committee, but if you don't like it, kill it. We don't give any preference in this committee to an agency. We don't give any preference to the second floor. And you don't give any preference to the committee chairman. If I have an RS that I bring that you guys don't like, kill it. This is big boy business, and so it's not personal. I don't want you to feel the pressure. I had a chairman at one time on this committee that tried to force us to print bills that he was proposing, and we didn't like them. And I always felt like that was wrong to have to print something that I disagreed with. So if the chairman were to bring something forward that you don't like, that's all right. Go ahead and vote against it. There's no harm, no foul. In an introduction hearing as well, a print hearing, you can amend an RS. A lot of folks don't know that, but that's one of the powers of introducing and printing a bill. You can essentially rewrite a bill on the fly, and we will do that often in here. So get used to that process. Bill sponsors. We like to move quickly in here, so the bill sponsor will be given 5 minutes to open up and tell us about their bill. And then we will allow 2 minutes of testimony for it doesn't matter who you are. You're only going to get 2 minutes, even if you're the gentleman on the second floor. And then at the end of that, if there's any negative debate on the bill, they'll be given 5 minutes to close. Preference will be given to in-person testimony. I do feel like that even though we provide remote testimony, those that bother to show up and pay for parking and come in here actually should have preference when it comes to testifying. So if you have if you as a committee member have a constituent that you'd like to testify, just text me. A lot of times I'll have folks that say, hey, so-and-so just showed up or so-and-so's online. Would you mind to put them in the queue? I'd like to hear what they have to say because they're a constituent of mine. So we do that. Another thing that I do in this committee is I'll rotate the chairmanship. So my vice chairman, Representative Scott, will chair this meeting at points. I feel like that it's extremely important to train up the next generation of leaders. And so if she's sitting in the chair someday and I'm here, and you're wondering what's going on, it's all about training and letting her be able to fly the ship, but have somebody that's her co-pilot next to her. We start at 9 a.m. every morning, so you can count on that. I found that it's easier if it's a predictable time every single day. So 9 a.m. is what time we will start. Finally, be respectful. That is one thing that we may disagree, and because the issues that we have to deal with in here, a lot of them are sensitive issues. If you're going to get gavelled down by a chairman, it's going to be because you were disrespectful. So make sure that you're respectful. I expect you to ask questions. That's how I learn. I learn by asking questions. So I expect you to ask questions, but make sure that you're respectful in how you either ask a question of another committee member or someone that's addressing us. So any questions, any concerns, any thoughts before we get started this morning? All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. First up will be RS 31836, Representative Scott. Welcome to House State Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Heather Scott, and I'm from District 2A. And today before you is RS 31836. And it's titled Memorial Defining Marriage. And you may want to we could almost say Memorial on who defines marriage, but either way. To give you a little background, in 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a 5-4 decision, and it was a decision of Obergefell versus Hodges. What this did was it effectively nullified marriage laws across over 3/5 of our country, legalizing same-sex marriage. The 4 dissenting justices of the court all agreed that the court had exceeded its constitutional authority. It undermined sovereignty, state sovereignty, and it disrupted the democratic process. While they didn't agree on every point, they did uniformly reject the notion that the Constitution guaranteed the right to a same-sex marriage. The shared concerns they had were concerning federalism, an obvious concern. What this decision did is it took the right away from a state to make the decision on marriage laws. Traditionally, that's a state's decision. Judicial activism, that was another shared concern, is that the court has overstepped its boundary and that it undermined the right of voters to determine their own state's marriage laws. So the purpose of this resolution is just to reaffirm our state authority to regulate marriage. That should be a job of the states, not of our courts. It also encourages the Supreme Court to revisit the Obergefell versus Hodges, requesting that they reconsider. Now that takes some steps to it, but that's what we're asking. And then the other purpose of this is it would restore federalism by calling for this issue to be dealt with in the states, not in our courts. So that's just an overview, and that's all I have for my introduction, and I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Are there questions for Representative Scott? Seeing none, the RS is properly before the committee. Representative Skog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see this as not an issue on same-sex marriage, but on judicial activism and states' rights. With that, I would like to hear more about this in a full hearing, so I would move to introduce RS 31836.
Committee, we have a motion to introduce RS 31836 by Representative Skog. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. It will be done. The committee will now have consideration RS 31870. Representative Ehart, welcome to House State Affairs.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, good committee. I am representing Barbara Ehart from District 33. And before you, you will see a resolution essentially commending Boise State women's volleyball team for that which they did in taking a stand for women. Just a few highlights, because I'm sure you've all read through this already. But some of you have heard me say over the last 4 years that Title IX changed my life. It really did. In 1972, Title IX was enacted to prohibit same-sex or sex-based discrimination. What many people don't know is because of Title IX, prior to Title IX, only 1 in 27 girls participated in high school sports. Since that time, 2 in 5. 2 in 5, which means that there's been a 990% increase in the participation of girls in sports and over a 545% increase in collegiate sports, which of course brings us back to Boise State. Boise State made a courageous decision. On September 28th, they were scheduled to play San Jose State at San Jose State. San Jose State, of course, in Barbara Ehart's words, was cheating. San Jose State was playing with a biological male. And that not only was it not fair for Boise State or anyone else whom they played, but it also was unsafe. And so not only did Boise State make that decision to forfeit that game, then again, when San Jose State was to come back to Boise to play, which would have been November 21st. They again made that decision, and certainly our governor had weighed in, referencing his executive order, knowing that he knew how it was going to turn out. They again forfeited that. But the real integrity, to me, came when Boise State had to go, or not had, but got to go to the Mountain West tournament. And at the Mountain West tournament, they beat Utah State in the first round, scheduled to play San Jose State. Now, if you understand sports, you understand this is their only path to the NCAAs. This is a tournament. If they say no and they forfeit their game like they've done 2 other times, they don't have a chance. This is where real integrity came forward, and Boise State forfeited that game. We do have 2 Boise State representatives here, Mr. Chairman, and when we have the hearing, hopefully we would have the hearing committee. They may also want to say something. We're hoping to have a player or 2 here. Let me also just say, if you notice on here that we do take the time to call out the Mountain West. This should never have happened. Shame on the Mountain West for allowing this to happen and not changing their policies. Even bigger shame, we call out the NCAA, Charlie Baker, for allowing this to happen. It should never have happened. Their regressive policies are putting men in women's sports, men in single-sex spaces, and it's not right. And so, I think that's probably enough. Oh, and one other reminder on here, you will notice that we're reminding the Mountain West and the NCAAs that our incoming president, Donald Trump, has made it very clear this is not going to continue to happen. So why put us all at conflict, right? So anyway, before you then, Mr. Chairman, and notice to good committee that your chairman is also sponsoring this with me. And so, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you have questions at this point, but I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Representative Ehart. Are there questions for Representative Ehart? Representative Palmer.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to introduce RS 31870.
Committee, we have a motion by Representative Palmer to introduce RS 31870. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. It will be done. Committee, that completes our work for today. We'll stand adjourned.